Hearken warriors, welcome to the Brothers Get In podcast, where we prepare you for the fury of emergencies, disasters, and the battles of everyday life. For Elder Verism, let us begin. Endurance is one of the most difficult disciplines, but it is to the one who endures that the final victory comes. That is a quote from Gautama Buddha, the Buddha.
Very good.
Endurance.
Endurance is the key, according to Buddha. Gautama Buddha. That's not the big fat Buddha, is it?
No, this is like your kind of skinny, emaciated.
Yeah. I didn't look. I could be wrong. I just didn't think it was the fat Buddha that was running.
Probably not. You know, you never know. Although many people that I knew were good runners are now fat.
Yeah.
Running. This is what we're talking about today. Today's episode is the art of running. Endurance as a survival skill.
Yeah, so running's super important. I think, hopefully everyone has had a go at running at some stage in their lives, and it's something that can always be improved on. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about running, a little bit about, why we run, different types of running events or styles, and maybe how to improve on it.
How many Ks do you reckon you've done over the years?
How many Ks total running over the years? Maybe hundreds, I reckon, easy. Given that I was calculating at one stage, I was running over 100 kilometres a week for a certain period of time, and that was probably over a few months. That alone would really stack up. So I run a lot, and my knees know about it.
Yeah, I was doing a sauna ice bath protocol this morning, and that's because I was, just woke up in horrific pain. So I checked in with my knees and my hips and said, how many Ks running have I done? The answer was too many.
Yeah.
But running isn't just about fitness. That is, primarily why we do it nowadays, I think, and a lot of people think, I'm going to go for a run. It's a fitness sort of thing. For me, at least, getting into running, it was more of a survival thing. I mean, it was a work thing in the military. We had to do it, but we did it for a reason, and that was kind of survival. There are a couple of other things that go into it as well. There's, for me at least, a more esoteric, spiritual version of running where I actually got into running for a brief minute there after the military. I hated it in the military. And then after I got out and I had time to actually sort of do it myself and went through this kind of sense of self-discovery and ways to get past things that weren't just being yelled at by your sergeant. I did find a point where I actually enjoyed running.
Yeah. Look, I haven't quite reached that level of running to make it a spiritual event, but there is something in running, I think, born into us. Once you get into it, you start to get some of those physical effects from running, i.e. Euphoria. People talk about the runner's high and that sort of thing, which is a natural sort of progress for you to combat some of that pain and just to be able to run long distances hard. And that is part of the process of what you try and develop when you're developing your running for long distances.
I have actually talked to people who describe this euphoria. For me, I don't think I ever got there. I don't think I quite got to euphoria with it. I think it was more of, if you imagine there's certain sects of religious beliefs, especially within the Christian sort of belief, where self-flagellation is bringing you closer to God. That's probably how I would describe it. There was an immense amount of pain that I was putting myself through and bursting through this pain barrier to reach enlightenment.
Maybe just the euphoria is the description of when the pain stops, when you stop running.
Yeah.
You feel comparatively euphoric.
It sucks a lot less now. So what we're going to go over is a bit of evolution of running, how it pertains to warfare, how it pertains to prepping, a little bit of sports science, because that's kind of my background, sprinkled in there. Maybe even a little bit of spiritual growth and, talking about how we can improve our endurance.
Yeah. So the history of running. So people have run for basically millions of years, since we became sort of people. Once, as soon as we stood upright and we could move at a faster pace than a walk or a waddle, we have begun to run. And our bodies have evolved with that in mind for running, both short and long distances. There's reasons why we run short distances, to get away, and there's reasons why we run long distances. But we have been built to run since time immemorial.
As the prophet Springsteen says, "Baby, we were born to run." I'm not a singer. Sorry, I shouldn't even try. Yeah, so there's that sort of idea that humans actually, if we look at it stacked up against other animals, we are one of the better endurance animals. There's not many animals that can run as long as humans can.
Yeah, I mean, look, I haven't seen this proven in practice, but you get on the YouTubes or on the internet, and you can have a look, and you can see these comparisons of like different animals, including ourselves, running over different distances. Now, things like horses and dogs and that will run fast over a short distance, but eventually they begin to tire, their endurance wears down, and then over time, people's running ability to maintain that takes over.
Yep. I sort of first came across that idea in a book called Born to Run by Christopher McDougall, which I thought was a pretty interesting book, and probably worth a read if you're into running in any way. And he kind of explains this. He actually started off by looking at these people in Mexico type area. I can't remember exactly where it was. The Tarahumara runners. I probably pronounced that very poorly, but I've only ever read it. I've never actually heard it said. These people are extremely good runners. Apparently, they popped into the scene somewhere on some famous run, and people were like, "Well, what are these people doing? How are they so good at it?" And he delves into like the history of human beings, of how we evolved to run, that our bodies are kind of built for it. I wanted to believe it so bad because I suck at endurance running so very bad. I'm a natural born sprinter. Okay, over 20 meters, over 50 meters, maybe 100 meters, good to go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and like I said, the different reasons, different people will find they'll have a specialised distance. Look at the runners in the Olympics; they've all got that specialised distance they like to do. Some are sprinters; they're built differently to the longer endurance type athletes. But it's something that the body does adapt to. I find running relatively quickly compared to any other exercise. You can run for 2 to 3 days a week, and after 3 weeks, you will see progress. The kind of progress you won't probably see lifting or doing any other exercise.
Yeah, yep. And it is, despite what I complain about it, it is actually quite a natural movement that we can do. Interestingly enough, it is something over my years of training people and even doing courses in running, in barefoot running, in all that sort of stuff. I've found that even though it is a very natural thing, a lot of people don't do it right, don't have correct technique, and thus make it harder. And that's certainly what I found, is that I didn't have a very efficient technique. I was trying to sprint, but sprint faster, and that doesn't carry weight for very long.
No, and when you think about people have been running back in the day for hunter-gatherer type things, but it's also been used throughout the ages in militaries and building up as a base core of fitness throughout sort of the times. All the way from the Spartans to samurais to Vikings have all had base running abilities.
With the, and I'm going to butcher this name again, Phidippides, I don't know how to say it. It's like, it's a really old name, okay? This is the story of the guy who ran from a place called Marathon back to Athens, I believe, in order to carry a message. And this is kind of one of those examples that you can see throughout history of people when we had to carry a message. We couldn't just text someone, we couldn't get on a radio. Historically, what we had to do was either get on a horse and do it, or run it in. And so we've got a lot of these messenger type people running. Even modern day, I'm pretty sure, feel free to write in and correct me if I'm wrong on this, the symbol for the Australian Signals Corps, your SIGs, your chooks, is Hermes, which is one of those flying gods, got little wings on the feet. Is that
On the right? Yeah, that's all right.
yeah. I thought I was right. I'm usually right. Yeah, and that's kind of calling to that sort of idea that that's what they used to have to do. I've met a couple of SIGs that could run. I've met a lot more that can't.
Yeah. But when we're getting to this kind of running, we're talking about different evolutions of running. So you have your sprinters and that sort of thing. But these sort of cultures they had to get to a place into battle and still have a lot of energy. So they had a different style of running. And they usually had to run underweight as well. So they'd be carrying a lot of equipment. So before you're talking about like you can sprint very well, which is great in your joggers and your shorts and your t-shirt. But as soon as you put a bit of weight onto that, it changes how you run and what you're going to do for distance.
So that seems like a really pithy segue into what I want to talk about next, which is kind of our experience of running, of endurance within the military, because quite often that is with weight when we had to do it. So we've got things like, obviously there's pack marches, you've got to do pack marches, and there are fitness tests where you've got to do runs. Back in my day, that used to be an actual run. I believe it's just a beep test now on the fitness test.
Yeah, the initial test is a beep test, but I do believe they still do the 2.4 kilometre run.
Good for them.
Yeah.
So you've got various different types of modalities of running. You've got your sprint tests, you've got your beep test, which is endurance in reality. Pack marches, and a lot of people will assume pack march just means put a heavy pack on your back and walk. But quite often we would do a hybrid type movement called shuffling. So you're walking for a bit and then you're shuffling for a bit. So you are moving faster than a walk, and it's not a run really. To run with 30, 40, 50 kilos on is problematic at best.
And this shuffle, I think, is quite unique. It's quite a different style of running. It's keeping everything low, keeping everything balanced, and keeping a rhythm and a pace. And it is something that you can do for literally hours on end. If you keep a good, slow rhythm, keeps your heart rate down, and you can just shuffle along with your rifle or your spear or your sword in hand, a little bit of weight around you, or even a pack on your back, and you can move great distances doing this shuffle much faster than you could at a flat-out run.
That's
Dogs.
Dogs
Dogs of war are barking.
Yep. Just a reminder. I don't know what for, but it'll come to me. That shuffling, that was something that I've always been fascinated, as you have been, with historical warriors and how they did things and the kind of things that they carried. It was something that I always used to think of when I was pack marching and shuffling, especially. This seems like a very efficient way to move over long distance with weight, and you can definitely see Spartan warriors doing it, and maybe even armored warriors, like actually carrying armor, where Spartan warriors would just carry a shield and a spear traditionally. Carrying this sort of weight into over long distances into battle, and being ready to actually fight
at the other end. So we talked a little bit about like that initial sprinting in your shorts and joggers, running at the shuffle at a long distance, and then you've got these horrible mid distances like the 3.2 kilometre run.
Man, that sucks.
That is quite possibly the worst run in all of military or out there at all. So to give you guys an idea, it's 3.2 kilometres running in your boots, in your overalls or your uniform, with a webbing on, with a bit about 5Ks around the waist, and your rifle in hand. And you have to do it under a certain time, and it is quite possibly, you can't get a rhythm, you can't get a speed, you've just got to hurt for that run. I don't know anyone that likes it, does it for fun, but it is a necessity.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think. Off memory, it was it like 16 minutes?
16 minutes, yep.
You had to do it in? Yeah. Yeah, it was really sucking, especially if the course isn't like a flat course either, where you can maybe start to pick, not quite a rhythm, but you can at least sort of get something close to a pace. When you're going up and down hills and things like that, and you can't see what the next turn, what's around the next turn, it makes it very, very difficult as a run. 3.2 and 2.4 Ks. They were the two standard tests. So 2.4K run is a very standard test in the Australian military. I always thought it was so odd, and I'd never really asked the question. It took me maybe a couple of years to go like, why 2.4 and why 3.2? What do these pertain to? Yeah. Somebody then told me the story, and I haven't actually verified this by researching it, but I just assume it sounds really cool, so I'm just going to go with it. 2.4 Ks is 1.5 miles, 1.5 miles. And where did 1.5 miles come from? Allegedly, the debacle that happened in, the battle that happened in Mogadishu in the 90s. So this is made famous by the movie Black Hawk Down and Australian Eric Bana on the 50 cal. So in that movie, obviously a lot of bad things happened, and they had to extract themselves out of a pretty hairy situation. And they found that what they needed to run, these soldiers needed to run out of this battle space, was 1.5 miles. So then after that, they said, right, we need to adapt all the training we're doing and make sure that a soldier can run fully loaded 1.5 miles.
The Mogadishu Mile.
The Mogadishu Mile. There you go. And that story always stuck with me. I was like, that actually, 2.4, just so everyone knows, when it came to running this fitness test, I was, you're in special operations, you're supposed to be this elite athlete. Wrong. This was the one thing that I sucked more than anything else. I could pack march okay. Push-ups were never a problem. Sit-ups were never a problem. This sort of stuff. I could rope climb. I could do these things okay, or some of them very well. But the run, I sucked at. I was always in the bottom 3, no matter who I was running against. And I actually had remedial PT for a while. Me and a buddy had remedial PT because we just couldn't figure out this run.
It is a horrible, horrible run.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, you got to kind of practice it. There's a lot of parts to it. It's, especially with the 3.2, it's not just endurance. It's not sprinting. So you're using different energy systems. There's kind of like multi-modal fitness that you're actually utilizing there. You just got to do it more.
Yeah. So this gives all good examples of how we use these kind of different running techniques in the military, but we also want to apply this to civilian sort of use, because the reason we're talking about running today is, why do you need to run in a civilian world?
Yeah, well, rule 1, cardio. I like to say this on the courses whenever I'm teaching courses, especially for people who don't run a lot, aren't used to stuff. Some of the courses that I've run in the past, we're maybe putting them in a situation where they have to run from things like gunfire. So we're simulating that, and maybe they're in body armor, and a lot of people face plant when they're doing this, or a lot of people get to the end of what we're doing and go, wow, I'm really unfit. I had no idea. And there's a lot of factors to that, but I just tell people, rule 1, cardio. So of every emergency situation that I've ever been in, any conflict, anything like that, my ability to run, I have valued almost higher than anything else. My ability to move fast.
And I think beyond that, knowing your ability. Like, you don't have to be an elite runner. You don't have to be the fastest. But you have to know what your capability is when you pick your feet up off the floor and start moving them quickly. Will you last 10, 20 seconds, or will you last 10 or 20 minutes? And you need to know, because then you can apply that to your given situation. So that only comes through rehearsal. And that's what running training is. It's just another way to rehearse.
Yeah, so this is going to be one of the key parts of our upcoming basic fitness course, that online course that we're building at the moment. So keep your eye out for that one. And we've had to think about this quite a bit. Like, what is it? What is it we actually want to achieve? Do we want to just look at those military fitness standards or something like that? But we want to create an amount of endurance. So we need aerobic exercise. We need people in that zone where they're able to sustain an exercise like running over a long time, probably at least half an hour would be a good mark, a good thing to shoot for, whilst still being able to converse, basically, not sucking in the big ones.
That's sort of like your zone 2 training, where you're just moving along at a good constant speed, so you can know that you can last that 20, 30 minutes and not have everything fall apart during that period of time.
Interestingly, one of the things I've discovered over the years of doing personal training and obviously sports science is that running, like I always just figured, right, if I want to run and I want to run longer, I just run longer more. So I used to build up for races like 10Ks, 15Ks, half marathons, things like that. And I just thought it's just about putting Ks in there. And that's not a bad idea. Like doing the thing that you want to do is always good. But there is actually a little trick to it, which excites me, sort of. It depends if you're into hill sprints or not. So I like short, fast, and loud when it comes to workouts. Yeah. All right, I don't like doing things for long, long periods of time. I don't like punishing my body that much. I'd rather take a immense amount of pain over a very small period of time. So hill sprints. Interestingly, a lot of the evidence that's coming out now say that sprints, and especially things like hill sprints, actually have a beneficial effect for endurance for long distance running.
Yeah, absolutely. Hill sprints, intervals, different types of interval training help build the basis for some of those longer distances that you need to do. One of the best ways to get your run times down is some interval type training.
Yep. Another thing is putting a bit of weight in there, so having weighted exercise, and the easiest and best way that I can think of doing this is chucking a backpack on and going for a pack march.
Yeah, yep, going for a walk with your pack on, and it doesn't have to be heavy to start off with, but just getting out there and clocking some Ks, getting used to how that feels.
Yep. So if you're from New Zealand, you might call this tramping. If you're from America, you might call this rucking. Go ruck. But we just call it hiking.
Yeah,
generally speaking. Yeah. Quick chat about that though. Thinking about if you're interested in this, we're just throwing out some ideas. I'm not giving you any sort of prescription or anything like that for exercise. But if you are interested in doing this, obviously starting out realistically, don't try and run a marathon straight off the bat. See where you're at, see what you can do. Maybe mix in a walk and a run as you're building up. When it comes to things like pack marching, don't just strap on 50, 60% of your body weight and think that you're going to get anywhere and that your knees aren't going to explode. Start with light packs. Probably around 10% of your body weight's probably a good mark to start with. Previous episode we were talking about grab bags and things like that. It was one thing that it just popped into my mind then, probably didn't mention, is how heavy your pack should be. Yeah. You really don't want to put everything in there and make it a really heavy pack. So I usually tell people to aim for about 10 to 15% of their body weight when they're building out a pack. Certainly, once you're getting up to 25%, then you're starting to really feel it.
I mean, the good thing is that you can start light with this sort of thing and you will build relatively quickly. The body's super adaptive, but if you just try and hammer it too much too quickly, it will buckle. So you start off light, gradual increments, and you'll be carrying heavy loads long distances in no
time. What's your thoughts on footwear?
Footwear is a bit of a mixed bag. I feel like footwear is one of these things. There's two parties. There's one, I've got the most elite running shoes with 10 inches of foam padding on it, and then there's the barefoot runners. Now,
weirdos.
Barefoot runner.
That's me, by the way, in case people are wondering.
What I'm thinking is with this one, it applies to a lot of things. Anything at extremes is pathological. So if you're just running in big padded foam shoes, it is pathological. If you're just running in barefoots, it is pathological. You need a combination of the both to build your running capacity. So you need to know, all right, what am I planning to run in? And does that shoe sort of fit me and my running style? But you move back and forth because New modern running shoes and hikers, they do well to protect your feet. They are well designed in the most place. But what they rob you of is that underlying muscular. So you've got to build up muscles in your feet. Same with in your hands for your grip. You need to build up the muscles in your feet. And this is where the barefoot shoes, I believe, come in to their own as part of a training mechanism. If you don't have the capability to run on sand or soft things like that, the barefoot shoes are a good alternative for getting around.
So I am a big proponent. Is that the right word? Let's say it is. I'm a big fan of the barefoot kind of philosophy. Not necessarily actually going barefoot all the time. I wear shoes, but I wear flat shoes and I wear ones that soles are quite flexible and a lot of space in there, so my foot can do what a foot is designed to do. But I didn't get there overnight either. So, I grew up and have many years of my adult life were using normal shoes. I was, obsessed with Access Gelcianos and stuff like that. And then I had to phase myself out of that. And I see this happen a lot. People go, no, I'm going to go barefoot, and they just switch over and then get injuries, lower limb injuries, from not appropriately stepping it up. So if it is something you're interested in getting into, make sure you do that appropriately.
But just remember, you will get injuries if you're using either one to an extreme sort of extent. And they work well together, using barefoot shoes and that to build up your foot muscle strength, your ankle strength, and then you apply it into a modern shoe will get you the best result that you need.
Cool. Well, that's that's kind of a bit of the nerdy science part of it, but there is another part to running that I've experienced at least, and I was making a joke about this earlier, but I think it's an important part and is worth discussing at least. It's kind of the spiritual realm of it. So endurance activities, and in this case running, as a path to inner transformation, the warrior's path.
So using running as a tool, like a tool for meditation or a way to think things out. I mean, look, honestly, I'm not much of a runner either. I use a similar sort of thing when I'm swimming. It's a way to clear the mind and how to sort of use running or exercise in general to, enhance your psyche, for want of a better term.
Yeah. When I was running, I started doing it a lot more post-military. I found that I had to actually do something else in order to go that far. I often describe it as the barrier, and once you punch through that barrier, then it all became a lot easier, quote unquote. Wasn't necessarily easier physically or anything like that, but mentally it was easier to do. And that was part of that was having the acceptance of what I was actually doing, allowing it to flow, and having a Zen-like state where really I'm not going out. I'm going, right, I've got to get this 5K in 25 minutes. I've got to get to 10Ks today. I've got to get 12Ks tomorrow, whatever it is. It was, right, I've got a time that I'm going to run for, or, until I can't run anymore. And it is literally just the next step, just concentrating on one step after the other and being in the moment of that actual exercise.
And I think that ties in well to what we call talking about the runner's high. That is part of it, is just being in the moment. It helps there is a physiological mechanism to it that you will want to run further and further, getting better and better. That what we call second wind will kick in earlier and earlier. So when you start running, you find it hard. You'll just always find it hard. And all of a sudden you'll hit a point and you go, actually, it just feels good now, and I can just keep going and going. And that point where that kicks in, the more experienced you are, will come less and less. So it'll kick in earlier and earlier. And you'll find that point where you hit the second wind and you go, yeah, now I can just run and I just feel good. And I'm just focused on my running and just beating along and my breathing and everything else that's going on around me without all the pain.
I have said this before, but quite often, like we separate these things out, and we do it in our system where we've got those 4 sort of spheres that we look at, and this is the physical sphere. Like, yes, you're training to run better, but there is an element of it that is knowledge based, that you learn how to run, you learn the physical capabilities or what the body is actually doing, you learn the skill of it, so you actually practice that, and you learn technique, and then the resilience side of it as well, going into that 4th sphere, the resilience sphere is actually quite a big thing for me. When I'm running nowadays, I've usually got some sort of heavy metal or something playing to motivate me to get me out the door. But I am doing it from a point of resilience now. It's not just like, I need to be fitter, or I need to be, blah, 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 whatever. I need to look good naked or anything like that. It is more about, I am building resilience through this. It's not just the physical capability in of itself. It's the mental capability or the emotional capability that I'm building within that. To make some historical analogies here, Musashi had this idea of Dokodo, which was meditation through movement of different sorts. That's one way that I think about it. I think about Norse or Viking culture, where they were talking about endurance. Endurance wasn't a flashy thing. Endurance was something. So the ideal for a Scandinavian in the Viking age was to be a drengir, which means, a lot of people interpret that as a warrior, but in reality, a drengir was a trusted person. It's somebody that you knew had the capability to do something. So this is about building that capability. This wasn't about looking good or finery or anything like that. For them, it was just a very functional sort of thing. Because they knew, as I know, you can't flex cardio. So
not at all. But it does, like you said, tap very closely into that resilience part. If you know that you can keep going and go often, and then if the people around you can have confidence in your ability to move, it can get you out of all sorts of dangers and dramas, which allows you, it increases your capability, makes you a more capable person, makes you more able to not get in trouble because you have this new capability of being able to run long distances.
As Musashi would say, the way is in the training.
Did you really say that?
Yeah. Pretty sure it's in the Book of Five Rings, just up there, if you want to pull that down.
Might have skipped through it once or twice.
Take 5 minutes to look that up. All right. Anything else that you want to talk about?
No, look, I think running is an absolute foundation part of training in all aspects. It does the physical side, does the mental side, and your resilience side. It feeds into a lot of different areas, and it should be something that is incorporated into everyone's training plan. I'm not saying you have to do it every day, but you should have a good idea at the end of the day where your running status is.
Yeah, yep. I'm always reminded of the fable of the tortoise and the hare when it comes to running as well. Getting somewhere fast is really cool, but getting there is necessary. When we're thinking about emergency disaster, survival, that sort of stuff, even military kind of context, what trumps getting somewhere fast is getting there.
And you can have all the best kit in the world, but if you can't get out of that car more than 10 feet, it's absolutely useless.
Yeah, and it's the basic, the most basic form of mobility that we have. So quite often in the prepper world, in the survival world, you talk about things like mobility, and people instantly are like, oh yeah, man, I've got my four-wheel drive decked out with this fridge, and I've got this camper and blah, 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 and all this sort of stuff, and these inch wheels and all that kind of really cool stuff that I'm into. But really, like, if you can't move yourself physically with your own 2 feet, well, if you're disabled, obviously it's going to be a problem. But, theoretically, with your own 2 feet, then I think you're just lacking the actual foundation of being able to move.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. How about a challenge for people?
Yeah. What do we got?
I was looking at what I've got written here, and I'm actually like, no, that's ridiculous. Okay, let's start with a beginner. So if you're not running at all, here's your challenge. For the next 30 days, I want you to get at least, so we've got 30 days, we've got a month. I want you to get at least 10 runs in of any way, shape or form.
Any way, shape or form. Sprints, intervals, zone 2, hills, run, walk, whatever you need to do to get those Ks up.
So if my maths is correct, that's one every 3 days.
Piece of cake.
Yep. All right. Intermediate. What I want you to aim for is getting, let's put a kilometre marker on this. Let's see if you're doing through, and I'm talking about running, obviously not just, calculating your steps on your Fitbit. Actual designated runs, I want you to do at least 50 Ks in 30 days.
It's not bad.
Yeah?
It's pretty decent. And not on your treadmill.
Yeah. Yeah, get out there.
Get outside and do it. It's a totally different experience.
Although if you have to do it on your treadmill, do it on your treadmill. But
If you have to.
We'll judge you. You will be judged.
Heavily.
Yeah. All right. What's the advanced one then?
Advanced? We're just stepping it up from 50 Ks. I mean, I thought 50 Ks was pretty good, but how much do you want to run?
50 Ks could be advanced, I guess.
Yeah.
It's all relative.
It is. Look, no, intermediate's good for your 50 Ks. I think for your advanced runner, say,
100.
Nice round number.
Yeah. Just easy. Just double it. 100 Ks in 30 days. That's doable.
Yeah, as long as you got the time.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's going to hold you back is the time. But 100 Ks.
And the knees.
Get your knee brace out, strap it on harder, and away you go.
All right. Anything else that you'd like to finish up with there?
No. I think running's an essential part. Get out there, do it as often as you can. You will find it will spread into all other areas of your training and of your life just by increasing just a little bit your running capacity right now.
Hopefully that's inspired you to get out there and run and know that it's not just some naff thing that you do with Lycra on, that it is actually an essential part, and I think quite often an overlooked part of disaster and emergency preparedness. All right, well, thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Dr. Gads.
Thank you.
Non-Dr. Gads. Little Gads? Sports guy Gads?
Sports guy.
Just Gads.
Scientist Gads.
Just Gads will do.
That'll do. And we'll catch you next time.
Catch you next time. That is the end of this tale. Until next we meet, keep the fires burning. Fra Eldi Verissimo.